Oh, yeah, we're back for episode 10, double digits here of the arena with my man PJ here, and we are going to be talking about emotional intelligence for men. And emotional intelligence, what does it mean? What is it, right? We're going to tip into that a little bit because it's one of those topics that, like, is a big topic. It seems like a hot button topic, and it's kind of vague. What does it mean?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of misassociation around it that it's like, oh, you might check that your mic is the headset mic, not your computer mic. You got a lot of background.
We got a lot of background.
Nothing like some tech. Slowed us down on the way in. Now we'll just double check here now. But yeah, that sounding great. A lot better. Yeah, what is emotional intelligence? How do you develop it? How do you cultivate it? And how is it going to elevate you as a man? Because, bottom line, why would you want it? Why should you care? Does it just mean being super sensitive? No, but it is going to elevate your capacity to process, heal, develop yourself, and also build and develop meaningful relationships with others, the people that you want to have meaningful relationships to. Emotional intelligence is part of that key. And bottom line, one of the most important things is it's going to empower you to be in command of your own emotions instead of just being driven by them.
Super key, guys, because you don't want to just chase the dragon. You want the dragon just to be in that state with you. And just a heads up, reminder, I'm PJ, the motherfucking CEO of Reality Dreamers. Instagram, don't take that down. I'm sorry for cursing. And my man, brotherhood, Peter Lynch from Unshakable. We're discussing emotional intelligence because I feel that as men, we often keep suppressing our emotions and we hold on to our emotions most importantly. So, for example, I noticed that a lot of times we're holding in anger, we're holding in sadness, we're holding in not feeling good enough, not being enough for our partners or friendships, etc. And Peter, mistake me if I'm wrong, when we're feeling certain things, especially like anxiety and sadness, we should just accept it and let it pass. I know for many of us, it's kind of, we don't process the loop, we don't close the loop. And
Right.
what ends up happening is people get frustrated, especially our to be partners or significant others, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to help us, and we don't know how to help ourselves. Yo, shout out to my girl Mary. I miss you, mama. So I wanted to keep elaborating on closing the loop, especially in terms of emotional intelligence. What do you think that men in our society need to start focusing on in order to close this loop? And how to we elevate ourselves in emotional intelligence? What little things can we start working on that can make us greater than yesterday?
Boom. Yeah. You said it there. A lot of, a lot of guys suffer from emotional unintelligence. Let's just be real. And a lot of people in general, but guys, right? We've, there's just there's a lot of stereotype around it, and there's a sense of like, I don't want to be a sensitive guy, I don't want to be weak, so I'm going to bottle up my emotion, or I don't want to be volatile, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be abusive. Maybe you had a dad who was angry and would yell and would use his temper to manipulate and control, right? And you're like, well, I don't want to repeat that pattern, so I'm not going to be that. And so then when you experience anger, it feels like I got to shut this down. Problem is, what you resist persists, right? So when you go to fight negative emotion head on, that negative emotion is going to escalate exponentially. So don't fight your emotions, because that means you're interrupting the process. The other beautiful thing, a big relief really, is that these processes naturally close their own, like emotion is already designed to close its own loop,
Huh.
right? We are perfectly and beautifully made. The issue is that we have this incredible capacity of consciousness and thinking and all these things, incredible capability that we don't always know how to harness the right way. And what that means is we oftentimes harness it the wrong way. I look at it as, I mean, it's any intelligence. If you want to develop intelligence, just let the natural processes work and learn how to ride the wave instead of fight the wave. It's surfing. You don't go make waves. You're a fucking idiot if you think you can go out on the ocean and be like, "Come on, wave. Come on, ocean. Give me a wave. Where are you at? Come on. Give me my wave now. I want one now." It's not going to work, and you'll be laughed out of town because it's the stupidest thing you could possibly imagine, like going out there and thinking you can make a wave. But you go out there, you find the wave. You don't fight the wave, you ride the wave, and the wave will carry you. And it's a beautiful thing, right? So the emotions are the same thing. They happen in waves. All emotions come in waves. You just ride the wave and you don't identify. So back to the surfing analogy, you are not the wave. You are not the surfboard. You are the surfer, right? So you are the conscious being experiencing an emotion. That emotion does not define you unless you define yourself by it. Okay. So don't identify with the emotions that you experience is one of the powerful keys I can share with you right here at the start, right? You want profound freedom in your emotional life. Don't identify with your emotions, right? So that means I'm not angry. I'm feeling angry. There's a big difference between just having the separation of recognizing, oh, I'm feeling angry. Does that mean me an angry person, right? That's when it then becomes identity. Or I'm feeling angry, therefore I'm a bad person, right? Might be some of the, so there's all these sequential dominoes that go, this thing happened, and then boom, 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 and the next thing you know, you think, wow, I'm going to end up living under a bridge, alone, unloved, lonely, sad, depressed for the rest of my life. Excuse me, right? Because one thing happens in the moment, it triggers negative emotion, it's going to happen. Right? So emotional intelligence doesn't mean now that I'm in control of how I feel. Emotional waves come and go all the time, but I can ride it, right? Can surf that wave and recognize this is gonna carry me somewhere. And if I'm present to it, the loop will close on its own and it'll take me to a deeper place of self-realization.
So in that regards, especially with like depression, how come it feels like it lasts a lifetime? It depression, should we label that as the same emotions, similar to sadness and anger?
Yeah, so anger is one where you're like, anger drives you to do stuff.
Yes.
Depression is like a bog, right? So anger burns hot and you're going to feel it and you're going to want to do something. Generally, we equate anger with a negative action. Anger, every emotion has a purpose. Anger's simple. Anger's there, self-defense, right? Action. When you see injustice and you feel angry, that's impelling you from within to do something about it, right? So there's a reason for it. It's just not for us to hold on to. If you're looking for anger to be the driver in your life, that's an unhealthy attachment to an emotion. And then there's an identification with that feeling as well, right? So no negative emotion, and there's a pretty clean line we can put. Anger is in the negative zone. It doesn't mean, oh my gosh, you should never feel it. It's just harness it and let it pass, and it'll pass quickly on its own. Depression is a deadly one because it grabs you and it just pulls you down into a bog. Why? So I said every emotion has a purpose, has a healthy use. What's the use of emotion? Here's my statement from my experience living in the mire of depression for years on end, is that depression was the guide. Depression was there to show me, to teach me my life that I was meant for more and that I was not living into my potential. I was not pursuing my calling. I was trying to somehow, honestly, I was trying to fit in with normal society and be a normal person, and it was driving me crazy. and the outcome was major depression, right? The outcome of not being yourself. So I would say this, if you're experiencing depression, it is a symptom of being untrue to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't let that depress you.
No, no, no.
Laughing, but like seriously, anybody, I understand when you get in it, it's like, wow, that feels depressing too. But when you start to recognize, well, the way out of depression is to tap into your sense of purpose and calling. It'll pull you out naturally. And you won't fight the depression, right? Antidepressants are a way of resisting. And then it creates a loop because eventually your body creates resistance or whatever, and then you need more. And it's bad for your health in a lot of ways because it's tweaking with your hormones. And a lot of the hormones that it's actually giving you are actually stress hormones. So it takes a major. So just antidepressants. I didn't use them. They were never the answer for me. I had no medication, and I didn't do drugs either. Mine was just grappling with who am I, what's my calling, what am I here to do, and when I leaned into that, I found freedom. And if anybody wants to get on here and have a dick measuring contest about, oh, who was more depressed, come at me, because I've heard that, and I think it's the stupidest thing. When people start opening up and they say, I experienced depression, somebody else inevitably, oh yeah, well, was it as bad as mine? Did you have blah, 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 blah? And was it clinically diagnosed?
Doesn't need to be.
You know what I
I
mean?
really don't
Like,
think it needs to be. Yeah.
yeah, nobody here
Sorry, just
listening, but let's just be real. But I'm also saying that because if you're in that boat where you're feeling like, well, maybe I don't have as bad as somebody else, look, your experience is valid and real. I just got to underline that. Always validate your own experience. It's real to you. It doesn't matter if anybody else thinks it was like deep enough to be valid. Fuck them.
amen to
That's part
that.
of how you develop your own emotional intelligence is by validating your own feelings. What are you feeling? Right? Because if you're invalidating your feelings, you're just lying to yourself, which is also then an issue of integrity. Integrity is integration. The root is the same. Integration. Integration refers to I have multiple pieces, and I bring those pieces into a whole. It's the same within ourselves. Integrity isn't this thing of like, what you do when nobody's looking. That's nice. And that's valid, but it's not the definition. Integrity means when you are a whole person, which means you are no longer exiling your shadow self, which is the anger, the depression, the anxiety, the negative emotion, as part of your identity that now you're trying to cut out. You're asking for trouble. It's Batman versus the Joker right there.
But like, definitely lean into the Joker, fight it, laugh about it, and I think that's key too. Is understanding our value, understanding the circumstances that has happened for a reason, and that with depression, I think it's supposed to ground you, honestly, to get you to seek more and to be in a state where you're kind of mopey, but you're not moving because you need to think about the next step, you need to think about the next action. Maybe you got to get help. Maybe you just got to go to yoga. But I think
Mm-hmm.
in realizing that there's value in ourselves when we have these emotions, that's going to elevate us to realize, like, hey, I'm feeling angry. I'm going to let this pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because you shout, yell at your family members, your friends, doesn't mean you're inherently evil, inherently
No,
bad.
not at all.
It's
Big
just
difference between making a mistake and being a bad person.
mm,
And you're going to make mistakes, especially when you start to engage with the healing process, because everything you bottled up, you start to go to heal, and it's like, oh my gosh, do I have to take the lid off? Yeah, you have to take the lid off, and you're going to have to deal with it. And people around you are going to have to deal with it as well. But if you're committed to the healing process, what you get and they get on the other side is exponential gain, right? You're robbing your loved ones of who you are, the gift of who you are, when we live in the bottled up, suppressed emotional dungeon. It's messy, but it's well worth it.
I don't think it's a bad thing. As long as there's no blood. As long as there's no blood,
No, right.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there's certain lines obviously you don't cross, but I mean, it's just like, man, it's better to. Yeah, it's tough because I think, well, okay, so we have a puritanical worldview foundation in our culture, right? There's the Pilgrims and that good old story of the first Thanksgiving and yurda yurda, and Pilgrims had some great ideas, but they were also just kind of a wacko cult from England. It was really like, would you just boil it down? Well, they were kicked out, like they had to flee because they had crazy ideas and ideals, but their worldview has been very foundational in the American worldview and our idea of the work ethic and of how men are to be, and kind of like, it's a blessing to be simple, it is a blessing to be dirt, that whole kind of mentality. And again, like, I'm mocking it a little bit. Sorry, anybody who's Puritan up there. Like it, there's validity to it, but there's us of certain aspects of it. I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but the main thing is to recognize. The most powerful thing is just to be able to analyze, to step back, step out of the damn worldview, and analyze it. Right. This is one of the keys I talk about for boys to become men, is to challenge your father. That doesn't mean go pick a fight with them or tell them all the things you don't like about them, because that doesn't matter. Everybody has quirks. You know what I mean? Like, you've got eccentricities, I've got eccentricities, everybody does. So you can pick on your dad for that. That's not going to do you any good. But what I mean by challenge your father is really challenge the worldview that has been passed on to you. Because when you challenge that worldview, you gain your own inner authority, which deepens your connection with God, which is the true authority and true knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom springs eternal. But if we get stuck into a rote, rigid worldview, there's no more room for wisdom. As the Chinese proverb goes, you cannot fill a cup that is full. Right? So you got to empty your cup sometimes. That means, okay, I've got this Puritan worldview in this cup, which I had pretty heavy. My parents really loved those ideals. I'm going to go dump it out and see what can this cup be filled with. And it's quite amazing. So part of the Puritan ideal is you do not have negative emotion, because that's the sign of a bad person. Right? And if you're
Yeah.
saved, and here's another one, and if you're saved, well, that means no more sin. No, not the case. It means you're being saved, right? There's a big difference in all from saved and being saved, which is what we find in the Eastern tradition of Christianity, is an understanding of, not, it's not like, hey, are you saved? Did you say the prayer? Are you good? Check the box. No, I'm being saved because that's why I'm here on this earth, right? Is the journey of enlightenment and fulfillment, which is intrinsically linked to salvation, which is a constant journey, not a one-time thing. And it's that whole idea of what that video we shared between each other a while back with that young guy who's making some videos for men, right? But his idea of like the concept of game, right? The game theory, gamification, essentially. But it's when you go from static goals to continuum goals is one of the keys to basically high achievers, high achieving men, high achievers in period, have an understanding that they're on a continuum. They're not at some kind of static, like, I get here and I'm good.
Yeah.
If you're good, you're dead, right? Because the term good means I'm done. I'm done growing because I got my Lambo. Bro, nature's growing or dying. Take a look around. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
No. And I get it. Like, I have to say, with highly intelligent men, it's okay to take a time out. You don't need to do everything for everybody, right? Take a time out for yourself and realize you come first. So stop thinking you have to be strong for others
Mm-hmm.
and their sake. Stop going back to that one person just because they give you a little bit of words of affirmation, etc. Oh, find self love. Find that one step you guys want to take.
Yeah.
I think learning, especially, even if it's a class, an online class, or reading a book, audiobook, I think that's going to help us and men and elevating ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to understand our emotions, to get self help and challenge. This is a challenge, guys, too. Like, this is not just us talking. This is a challenge to you to work on yourself. How do you
Yeah,
want to
right.
work on yourself?
Yeah, this talk means nothing if nobody acts on it, ourselves included. Can sit here and blow hot air all day and it's not going to do a damn lick of good. You know what I mean? So who the hell cares? Take action, right? You just find one thing. Find one thing to act on from this show today, and it'll change your life. And what's really important about that is because if you find one thing to act on every damn day, you become an unstoppable force of growth, right? And then you become that. Here's a real irony. When we load ourselves up as men and we think, I got to be strong, I got to be like a pillar for my family, for the people that are counting on me, a lot of times we load ourselves up with lofty ideals that are crushing, and then we're not able to actually become what we want to be. So your own aspirations can become self-defeating. Be very aware of that. Don't try to be what you are not. That's really the key. So men need the humility to grow. And that's part of the beauty of developing emotional intelligence is it'll bring you the humility that naturally comes with self-awareness. Because emotional intelligence, that's a practice of self-awareness. How am I feeling? That's it. You want to start developing emotional intelligence, check in with yourself throughout the day and just go, how do I feel? How am I feeling right now? And then start to describe it. Don't stay high level of like, good, I'm fine. No, nobody's fine. Never like eliminate fine. That's not allowed, right? If you're committed to the journey of growth, the word fine is no longer allowed. Are you going to sit on your deathbed and look back at your life and be like, it was okay. It was fine. Right? Is that what you want? You want a fine? It was fine. Right? It was 7 out of 10. Come on, right? What do you want? You want 10 out of 10, fine is not acceptable. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
so we got to sit down and go, well, how am I feeling? How did that situation make me feel? And then pause, take a deep breath, and start to feel it out, right? Roddy Carter talks about, the compassionate neuroscience. His process is one of the things that's key in his process is what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you fearing? Those three things are key, and we have the capability to make those distinctions, but most people have no clue what the distinction between those things is, right? So you're thinking, and more accurately, because thinking is the place where we can create positive belief about the future, positive self-belief about our current state, about who we are, right? Belief in our own value. When that's the guide of our being, the emotion reflects that. So that's the three levels of the brain. So the emotion is kind of this mid flop. Belief is loud. Oh, okay. We feel great because belief makes you feel good. If fear is running you, oh my gosh, I might die, right? That person is gonna reject me. I'll be undesirable. Do you like fundamentally as human beings, that's the same as death. Because if you are socially rejected, that means you're probably like by our bio, like over the however long, it's all debatable, right? But over our development as beings, intrinsic in our being, wherever it comes from, is a baked in programming that if you are not part of a social hierarchy, if you're not part of a social community, you don't survive. It's very, very rare. It's the extreme outliers, of those guys that want to go live in a cabin in the woods by themselves for 50 years and survive in a national park or whatever. It's cool. They still exist. But they're the crazies, right? Everybody else, we need a society. If you're rejected from the society, you're going to die. So you're biologically programmed to have the same response to rejection as an actual T-Rex threatening to bite your head off. Okay, so that's why sometimes when we're like, right, feel so freaked out, or men, all y'all who are still single and in the game, right, and you're going up to a chick and you're like, hope she accept, right, I hope I'm acceptable to her. I hope that she'll say yes and find me attractive and all this stuff. Why? It's because like there's a whole lot of other things that hinge on that other than whatever you're just thinking about in the moment, which is probably some kind of like, man, she's hot, hope she likes me. You know what I mean? And then, but behind that is way, way more that you're not even consciously processing, but is baked into our biology and our neurology. So the fears that come up, all I'm getting at is just be aware of like, what are you actually afraid of? Because in the moment of rejection, it's not really that that one chick rejected you. But if you really dig into it, what you're going to find is a fear that you're going to end up alone. Right? That's what it comes down to. It's like, oh my gosh, am I acceptable then? Am I right? Like that. So it becomes an existential crisis very quickly. But there's nothing wrong with that. Existential crises are fantastic opportunities for personal growth. They really are, because they'll just take you where you don't want to go. Because if we're just sitting around comfortable, doing our little meditation in the morning, I don't know, it's not really going to be like, bam! You know what I mean? It takes a while to get to the place where you can really go deep. But you go get rejected, you have an existential crisis, that's a good place to pause. And you're like, man, well, it's a busy day. I'm in the middle. Well, just go take a seat. If you're at a Starbucks, go sit down. I don't know, because you thought the barista was cute. Well, go sit down after you get rejected and just take a pause, take a deep breath, and think about what am I actually afraid of here.
And chug that coffee.
And just slam that coffee and go for round two.
Yeah.
Show her you're
I
committed.
mean,
No, I don't know.
it's tough, man. Because like personally, like I would like the calm route where I could think about my actions, think about what to do, where it went wrong, but that in that calm state, where did it go wrong? What did I say? What did I do? Then it just spirals, and then there's no growth. It's just overthinking, and then being negative on myself. But
Yeah.
I like, since I've been working with you, it's okay. Existential crisis, negative emotion or experience, growth, because I think about what did I not want.
Yeah.
Just we didn't align. Our values didn't align. Or our vibe, there's no chemistry, or there's
Mm-hmm.
no boundaries. And this is where men have to speak up. Stop letting people trample over you. Act for that raise. You know,
Yes.
you know, I'm always very vocal about what I want in a job, what I want to become. And I have to say, the more I say it, the more we work together, the more we're putting our water in love, the more it simply is. So, men, with your emotions, feel it, let it go, and remember, where do you want to be? Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to be a father that's loving, caring, supporting to your partner and kids? Do you want to be a single like me and go to New Zealand and try to figure it the fuck out? you know, I think what I really want to get into is, what do we desire as men? And I think me and you are always on the same boat. It's passion for adventure, for a greater cause.
Yeah. I think that that's a defining trait of any great man is that they lived for something greater than themselves. And we could start to draw up distinctions of what is great, who was great, in what category. I think that greatness existed in many categories, and not all of them are going to be popular because some of them were conquerors. Oh, well, they still accomplished far more than anybody who wants to sit in an armchair at some university and critique history and historical figures, and those people won't be remembered at all because all they live for is critiquing other people. Well, grow up and go live for something. Go live for something real, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to get your name in a history book by any means, right? If you're trying for that, well, it's not even the right motive. It's not the right motive. It's just simply tapping into your calling and knowing that you live for something and your calling is greater than yourself because it's outside of yourself. So when you live for your calling, you live for something outside of yourself. I know, yeah, thank you. If y'all, good to have you here. And yeah, I love the yeah, just finding one thing to act on every day. I mean, that simple is just powerful. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so powerful. Reflecting on things on my birthday yesterday, and it's just like, it's cool. I mean, that's just been the journey for me. Just one step at a time, finding one step at a time. And it's like, um, it's just funny because I pulled up like pictures from 10 years ago and then found a picture from 5 years ago. I was like, shoot, had a slump in between, had some hard times in between for sure, and it just brought some memories back of the whole journey, and it really was. I mean, 10 years ago was a different chapter, and then it was like somewhere in between the 10 and the 5 that things got, that I new commitments, um, made new commitments to my own growth. And it just opened up, like that was taking the lid off, in the process, taking the lid off and digging deeper in. And that just brought up more things, and it like brought up stress and pressure and difficult times to go through, a whole nother chapter of hard times, but oh well, it shaped me in my journey. So I'm grateful for it all. It's just interesting to reflect on. So anyway, I don't remember where I was exactly at. Just
Well, I'm gonna ask. In that reflection, I have a question. Like
yeah.
10 years ago, Peter. Let's go back to 10-year-old Pete. 10 years ago, Peter.
I
What?
was a kid.
Yeah, no. What? What was your state of mind 10 years ago? Like, what was going on that you did not see for your calling? Like, what were you so focused on? And now, Peter, now, what have you cultivated, shown, and are, or you're not?
Well, 10 years ago, I just didn't have I didn't have the contextual awareness, I would say, that I do now. Like 10
Mhm.
years ago, I was just trying to figure out money.
Okay,
How am I going to make money? What am I
there we
doing with
go.
my life? This was before joining a cult.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like I went and got some work, worked really hard for there for a while, newly married. Um, Felt like it was just really difficult to pull ahead, which it was, not because of the work, but because of my own mindset. And I was not at in a place to even become aware of those kind of things, right? To have that self-awareness yet, that my because so it's an interesting one, because like there was a lot of freshness when I look back at those pictures. I think, yeah, there was like a, I don't know, just like the vigor of ignorance. I had no idea
I
the
love that.
chapter that I was about to engage in, of just brutal slog for about the next 8 years there.
That's okay.
um, and but there was definitely a willingness. Right, there was definitely, like, you can see back then, like, one thing hasn't changed much about me is I've always had this inner fire, this inner drive of I'm gonna figure this
Fuck
thing
shit
out.
up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do something significant and meaningful. Now, my intention mixed with my poor mindset and my limited worldview took me to a cult to go be a part of that, thinking I was going to be part of something significant there. Now, it gave me an amazing education there, um, in human psychology, dark psychology, and meeting somebody who has, in certain ways, similar traits to myself, um, but highly abusive, insecure, and manipulative. But learned a lot there. And then, so what's the difference now? And I love that question. Let me get to that in just a moment. But, difference now, I don't remember your original question even now. Just like, I don't know, 10 years later, it's just, now it's crystallized more, like, it's not clear, because I come back to the place of, it's a continuous journey. But one thing that's definitely there for me that I'm connected to is a sense of purpose now, and a belief in the capability, right? So I can dwell in the state of that things are good, things are working out the right way, because I'm on the right track, because I'm pursuing the right things. Excuse me. And it's not just a fight for survival. And that was part of it. When I was young, still young, but I mean, 10 years ago, it was just like this thing of I just want to feel like I have kind of a direction for my life, competence, right? How am I going to make money and just kind of get bills out of the way? Now I know that just making that your goal, that's a it's a dangerous goal, because if your goal is to pay your bills, it's a push motivation and you'll always be just coming up underneath that, right? So now my goal has nothing to do with paying bills. It has everything to do with serving more people, reaching more people, and that's exactly what's happening, right? So now I'm just building more and more systems, putting more things in play to share message that is encouraging to men, whether that's my own message, or just or the wisdom of the ancients, which is one of the best things you can be tapping into, is just ancient wisdom from pre-Gutenberg. The printing press is a funny thing. We created the printing press, and all of a sudden it was easy to proliferate written knowledge. But it doesn't mean that we necessarily have like a bunch of better knowledge, because you go back pre-Gutenberg and it had to be really valuable stuff for somebody to take the time to write that out. So you go pre-Gutenberg and you'd find a whole nother level of caliber. Now we live in the digital age. You can get on Reddit and read any jackass's opinion about anything, and or a blog, and it's like, good God, I just want a recipe. I don't care about your dumb farmhouse. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is. Like, I don't care what happened to you earlier in the day when you found this recipe. Just give me the recipe, you know?
What the
Anyway,
answer is.
my experience on food bloggers, I just can't stand it. I have no interest in reading your damn blog. I just want the recipe. If they don't have a skip to recipe button, I'm gone. Not staying on your page. All right. Rant over. So if y'all, what was the trigger that changed everything for you? Damn. I mean,
I thought that
lightweight
was a great
question here.
question.
Lightweight question, right? I mean, it's hard to like changed everything. It's like, at what point? I don't know. That's another thing I guess I'd almost take for granted in my own journey, is I feel like I've just had multiple of these things, multiple of these awakening moments in different ways, on different planes. So like the early, a major one was just the changing out of a state of depression and emptiness and being in a state of looking for escape, right? Which was really just being in a state of trying to escape from my pain, my internal pain, my emotional pain, which was tremendous and immense. And so I was looking for ways to escape that. And the number one way that took I guess the most prominent way that took shape was getting blackout drunk every chance I got in Alaska. Um, you know, and that's not socially acceptable. Um, Thankfully, I had people around me that were like, all right, you got to stop. I didn't have anybody around me that was like, all right, hey, let's talk about what's underneath it, like what's causing you to want to drink,
Mm.
which is who I am now. Right? That's part of why I do what I do. It's just because I see in my own hindsight, I'm like, I know what I needed. Nobody was there to give it. I'm thankful I had people around me that are like, all right, well, you got to stop blackout drinking because that's not healthy for you. Great. But it was kind of like, yeah, you better quit because that's shameful. And that's an interesting thing about communities, and it's an important piece of like finding the right community fit for you, is find a community that's actually interested in your best well-being. This is a problem with parenting too. If you correct, man, if you want to damage your kids emotionally for the rest of their life, right? So don't do this. But it's a mistake we all make. It's uncomfortable when we're around a group of people and we go and our kids are making noise in a place where it's like, oh, you got to be quiet, and so then we lash out at them. It's not because they're doing something wrong. It's because we're afraid of the social dynamic. You know what I mean? What I'm getting at
Thanks.
is, if we correct our kids for behavior that we're afraid somebody else is displeased by, that's an emotional scar, because it doesn't make sense to the kid, because how the hell do you rationalize that? Why are you punishing me? Because I'm afraid of what so and so thinks. Oh, fuck them. You know what I mean? So it, anyway, the same thing happens with adults too. Hey, well, it's not socially acceptable for you to be drinking because it reflects poorly on our community, whatever, or any other drugs, whatever kind of thing that somebody might be struggling with. And then we just try to shut it down, suppress it. Nope, nope. because Puritan ideals, we've got to have like, we got to be perfect, pure. Nobody is pure. Nobody is perfect. But when you just embrace yourself as you are and who you are, you grow tremendously and you find freedom. But a lot of times the people that end up with the biggest scandals are the ones that are, really trying to suppress and hide something. So anyway, I was back to Ifyok's question. The trigger, I mean, for me, it was just like coming.
I think it was
It's always hard to
multiple.
put my finger on because it was just like it was a dark night. Is kind of the place that I come back to. It was the dark night, alone in the woods. It was freezing cold. And it was just this cycle of blackout drinking, or I'm going to go out and, I mean, a lot of times I'd go out into the woods in the winter, so it's frozen, and I'd just go punch trees till my knuckles were bleeding because I wanted to feel something. I wanted to feel, right, because I felt numb, because I felt disconnected from life. So I was like, well, I'm going to go enrage myself, right, or tap into the deep rage that I feel that I was struggling to even express. So it's interesting because I think it was a positive, even though it's like, I know that sounds, and I'm not suggesting let everybody go, have rage experiences in the frozen woods, but it was better than trying to suppress it. So that was a beginning experience for me of just expressing. And look, that's why, like, if you just look at, it's always nice when our society and our culture gets out of a survival experience and like men don't need to chop wood to keep their families warm anymore. But look, guys, find something like chopping wood because it's a great physiological expression of your emotion, because that's a key point. Emotion is not psychological, it is whole being. So if you don't move, your emotion gets stuck. All as simple as a walk. And here's a key about walks is lateral eye movement. When you are walking, you are moving forward. And if you just let yourself if you're not thinking about it, your eyes are going to start going side to side. That's lateral eye movement because you're looking at that thing as you're walking by, you're looking at that thing as you're walking by. That tells your brain you're moving forward. There's lateral eye movement therapy now because it's so biologically and neurologically wired that if you can just get somebody to do lateral eye movement while they're talking about an emotionally traumatic experience, it releases it because you moved forward.
That's
You
awesome.
moved out of the experience. So if you're struggling, go take a walk and think about what you're struggling with. You will leave it behind you on the damn walk.
Make it 30 minutes, guys. Don't be a bitch.
Yeah, and
But
I
no,
mean it has so many other health benefits to you too. It's amazing. But yeah, like, and not on a damn treadmill. That's part of the problem. I don't understand our culture. Hey, let's fill a building with treadmills and put up screens so we can keep indoctrinating you with CNN and Fox.
well, I'm
Wait, who?
sorry.
The same owner? That's funny. Same company owns these two media outlets that supposedly have different viewpoints. Huh. Well, I should be able to trust that. It's okay. Freedom of speech. America.
That was so well said. No, I think people really should like tune out of media totally while going on these walks.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately it's like 100 goddamn degrees out in New York, Peter. So I am not going outside.
You're talking to yourself.
Oh, a little bit,
Yeah.
slightly, but,
Nah, dude.
but
Go take a hot walk, then a cold shower.
I'll do the latter first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd do it.
But
Yeah. I'd do it
like if you,
after. Get that sweat off you. Go heat up and then cool down. And there's cool benefits to that. It's like the old sauna to ice bath idea, because you go heat yourself up, it opens all your pores out, and then you go jump in ice water and your pores go and it squeezes toxins out.
speaking of that, do you guys have Russian ice baths in Colorado?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't
I
know.
know.
It was
Super
more
rad.
fun in Alaska. There was actually a neighbor who had a sauna and, well, a banya. It's a little different than a sauna. It's basically just a lot more steam involved. So I'd go over there during the winters, like on a weekly basis with a couple other guys, get naked in a banya, steam it up, and then go jump out in the snow, roll around, and then run back inside. Was, that was pretty good.
That's amazing.
Not
I
always
just
naked for any of you that makes it a little uncomfortable, but and not weird. Just
no. It's listen. Japan. When I was in Japan, that was a thing. Everybody was nudie. In the onset. I think we should be a little more accepting. Look at the
it's a funny association of major discomfort that you find again, and I really just believe it comes from You just can trace it to kind of this puritanical idea, which is an like a misconstruing of modesty. Modesty, Anyway, so a lot of things, it's funny how virtues become vices very quickly when people assign their meaning to what that virtue is and then use it as a stick to go beat other people with instead of a measure for themselves to look at in the mirror with. It's
Yeah.
immodest how modest some people are.
I love that.
Anyway,
No,
so I don't
I
know if
just want
that
to say
answers quite like what the trigger was, there was something just unlocked within me, though, grappling with my own emptiness and my darkness, and really came to have that experience where I felt like I was just peering into the void, right? As Nietzsche talks about, just peering into the void of emptiness, of meaninglessness, of nihilism. So nihilism philosophically and just spiritually I understand very deeply because I understand, like, because I just because I knew it, because I knew I was just grappling with a deep sense of emptiness within my own self. So it's inextricably linked to a spiritual experience for me, which is the knowledge of God, right? Which is ultimately is a relationship. And this is where, there's discussions like this can never be purely religious, because if that's all it is for you, you've never experienced God, which is a relationship. And as you like to say, when we have each other, we have everything. Everything is a relationship.
yeah.
You have a relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with God, you have a relationship with others, you have a relationship with everything in your life. So the meaninglessness is what I found was when I was trying so hard, when I was disconnected in my relationship with others, and specifically, especially with God, because I was so focused on myself and how sad I was and how I wanted some person to fix me and all that, because I hoped that, wow, if I could just have a relationship, surely that would help. Um, and thankfully that never worked out because the attraction at that point just wasn't healthy. Because from that state, I was only attracted to people that would not have been a good girls, that would not have been a good fit for me. Would not have been the right match. So that's a whole nother thing too. It's like if you guys are struggling and you feel like you're having a hard time finding the one or whatever, just work on yourself. Just be present with yourself. She'll come to you. There's no pressure. A great quote from Lao Tzu. Um, Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Right. And so again, it's like when we focus on building that connection with ourselves, and this was the key, I suppose this was really the key for me, was I realized I was trying to have a relationship with God, but I was doing it intellectually. And I thought, well, if I could know the right things and check the right boxes, true Puritan fashion, I'd be a good person and I could have a good life, you know? And once in a while, I might pull the stick out of my own ass and beat somebody else with it, but then just shove it right back up, be all uptight. And that's not life,
Yeah.
right? And I wasn't going to live if I wasn't even connected within my own heart. If you're familiar with that idea of Christ knocking at the door of your heart, are you connected with your own heart? Because you're not going to hear the still small voice of God, which is also your calling and your purpose and your sense of meaning in life. So what is the meaning of your life? Well, it's the meaning that you give to your life. And you give meaning to your life through your actions and your intentions. So if your actions and intentions are not aligned with your purpose and your calling, the meaning is rather insipid and weak, right? And that's what I found for myself, was there wasn't really any meaning because I wasn't giving meaning. And then I was becoming a victim because I thought, well, God doesn't want me to blah, 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 and all these kind of stupid BS things that we can come up with when get wrapped up in a particular, worldview. And so it's just a hard looking in the mirror and taking ownership and accountability for my own mistakes and committing to developing a relationship with myself, a not self knowledge. And through that journey, it's like the heart is that doorway to spiritual understanding. So that's the importance of emotional intelligence, to loop it back around there. If you want spiritual intelligence, you're never going to have it without emotional intelligence. Any spiritual kind of, striving is really just going to turn into delusion without the groundedness of the humility that must come with emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence must come with a journey of self-awareness. And you're not going to be deluded when you're aware of yourself in a real and honest way, especially when you surround yourself with brotherhood.
Brotherhood. So good segment because I was just about to post this.
Boom.
There
Yeah,
we
and I
go.
want to share it. If y'all, yeah, takes a walk every day. Dude, that's awesome. So taking a walk every day, seeing an upward movement in his life and business, right on. And I love that. You know, and it's just something about the simple, like, I don't know, we just think like, oh, it's too simple. I need some complex fix. Same in your business. Guys, you got business, you know, like so many times we're trying to create complicated solutions. All you're doing is creating more problems for yourself and your business. Your business is far more simple than you're making it, I promise you, especially on your sales and marketing. You want to connect with people, just keep it simple. Simplify. But our ego gets in the way and we think, oh, well, my business, no, my business is special. I need a complicated fix. Same with AI. We think, well, yeah, the programming behind AI is pretty damn complex, but I'm doing things that most people don't know how to do with AI because I take a simple approach, you know, and we'll talk more about, it's a little teaser for something coming up. If you want to learn how to use AI to just dominate and create a content machine and stuff like that, stay tuned. Enough said. All right. So thanks for dropping the
And the
link,
brotherhood
PJ.
though.
Yeah.
And the
So,
brotherhood though. That gotta get access there.
yeah,
It's free.
100%. It's free.
We're like, what are the
It's
call of action
free.
or something free?
What's the catch? Oh, well, once you're inside, I threaten that, you know, you got to pay me $1 million or else I'm going to cut your internet off. I don't know, like, what's the catch? There's no catch. It's free. You know, you'll read once you get in there, you can buy a membership if you want, support what we're doing. Basically it just goes towards better studio equipment for me. PJ's got Reality Dreamers, which is his podcast. You can support that too, right? So there's ways you can support us if you feel so inclined. We greatly appreciate that. Either way, right? I mean, there's a lot more coming, so I'm going to be pumping out a lot of free just resources there for you guys, and just it's a way to engage, because that's bottom line here. This is about building community and brotherhood, because we can talk about this stuff all day, but the actual application and living out happens on a daily holistic way, and it's best with others. And back to the whole idea too of, you know, being part of a community, being part of a social structure, etc. Some of you out there might feel like I'm the lone wolf. I don't need that. You know what I mean? And I can speak to you as a Sigma myself. Sigmas are not meant to be outside. Sigmas still integrate into a community and a social structure. They just do it differently. So the whole idea that Sigmas are lone wolves is just a stupid misappropriation of the idea. Sigmas have a very significant and special role. If you want to talk about that more, yeah, then hit me up. Let's talk about it. And we'll probably dedicate a whole session to talking about those distinctions, because they're very fascinating and usually misunderstood and misappropriated. But anyway, all that to say, no man is an island unto himself. And even the Desert Fathers had a strong understanding of that. They all lived in community, in monasteries, and it was very, very rare that anybody was a hermit out by himself in the wilderness. And even then, it was only blessed by his elder. So it was still done in obedience and connection to the community, because he still had a link through his elder, and thus the obedience. So when we go seek things out on our own through our own pride and think, oh, I'm tough enough, I don't need help. Yeah, have fun. Right? Join the Brotherhood. It's a great place to get support.
Hell yeah. Peter there. We kind of like hang out.
Yeah, totally.
Get to know you. We're not totally crazy. We've got amazing personalities. No, I'm just a center. Like Peter's the light, and I'm the center.
I'm totally insane.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Maybe when we play Baldur's Gate 3 and make really bad decisions in that game, I'm so stoked.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got Starfield. like I said. So I'm excited to dig into that. I barely got any time into it at all, but it's looking pretty cool. It's looking very clunky, which I kind of enjoy. Like it's not. I just got to the point where you get into a starship, and I'm like, they did not make this easy to understand at all. Could take a lot of. I could take a lot of. I mean, there's a lot to criticize about it, but it actually adds to kind of the fun because you feel like, oh yeah, I'm kind of in a funky, not easy to use starship, right? So anyway, it's cool so far. Excited to get into it more. Um, but yeah, man, what else do you have to share on emotional intelligence and the development of it, and I don't know, this whole loop of conversation? I feel like I've been talking too much here. So what
Well,
do you got to share with us?
oh, you didn't talk too much. I just don't want to interrupt your flow. When we're in a state of flow, we gotta let it all out. It has to be in sync. But I really want to talk about Starfield really quick into emotional intelligence, is because that main story, by the way, guys, is 60 hours. Just the main story. Everybody that has been playing the game has stated it's better after the main story. So why I wanted to bring that segment in is because with emotional intelligence is it's not going to be a day, week, month, a year change. Could either just at a snap of your fingers, or it could be slow, tedious, and small steps. So with emotional intelligence for men especially is feel what you're feeling. My thing, as I've always hated it growing up, is, oh, you're so sensitive. Yeah, because I could feel everything as an empath. And it sucks because I could feel when other people are angry and I don't know how to block that out. So what
Mm-hmm.
I do is I dig myself a hole in the gym for 2 hours and I release everything that's been absorbed like a sponge into me. So for men, you don't know if you're an empath or what's the other one?
Psychopath.
That's God, I hope
No.
not. God. But like, find that way to let your emotions come into your soul, feel it, acknowledge it, and that's something like we've always really talked about. Me and Peter is acknowledging what you're going through, acknowledging the emotions, but acknowledging the process. Because I've always got frustrated that, hey, why aren't we here yet? Why aren't we here yet? No,
Yeah.
we are. We are. It's just different. It's different. It's different for everybody. Like, how many people could say they've traveled to Alaska, gone to Australia, just different time periods? That's wild. There's a whole world out there. So
Yeah.
feel the sadness, write about it. That's what I love to do. That's
Mm.
how I process my loop. Is I write poetry, or yesterday I played the ukulele and I was making
Nice.
like really corny romance songs till I found out she was crazy. Crazy. Like, bro, I'm so glad I'm single, Peter.
Oh man.
She was just like, I'm in love with you. Like, what? I just met you. This is our second date. You're my soulmate. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta go. But I'm not gonna let that bother me. I'm going to
Hop in that
accept.
express lane and
Oh, bro, went 90 all the way home last night. But I think that's really cool. Like, I met a lot of figures in my life, new people that I didn't go to school with, that came into my life at a certain time. Peter and my friend Daddy Devin is a perfect example. They have a mission, they have drive, and they are focused on it. So when you're trying to level yourself up in emotional intelligence, guys, stick to a simple goal. And when you're getting sadness, getting anger, frustrated, hey, it's here, it will pass, and you focus on that goal. And that's for providing for your family, being a better father, being a better person for your friends, or just figuring yourself out. I think that's cool that you can do it in baby steps, through experiences, through acknowledging your pain and emotions.
Mhm.
And happiness is not a constant, which I think most men have this. Oh yeah, I'm going to be happy and rich and famous and drive this car.
I'll be happy when.
Mm,
It's another dark side of it, right? I'll be happy when I have the car and the
the girl.
relationship, the Instagram model, and the no, you won't. Because if you're saying you'll be happy when that, you're not happy now. And
Just
that's
chasing
the
it.
place to face yourself and identify, well, what the hell is a car or a girl or anything else going to give you? It's going to make you happy. If you're waiting for them to fill your void, that's not going to happen, right? Now, not to say you get right, marriage is very fulfilling. There's a lot of happiness that comes from that in its own way, but it's just not like, oh, once I'm married, I'll be happy. No, 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 no. Stupid expectation to set for it, right? And then because it also sets you up that when you're not happy, which is inevitable, two people growing together, there's going to be difficult times. So when you hit that, does that mean, oh no, the marriage must be bad? No, it just means you're ready for a next level. So embrace the journey. I think it's a big key here. As you're saying, happiness is not, and it's not a destination. It is the journey. And so part of emotional intelligence, even and like embracing and in developing emotional intelligence, it happens as a byproduct of developing yourself, which happens as a byproduct of pursuing something greater than yourself, is what I would say, right? So if you're just looking for, oh, it's not like we sit, going back to RPGs, it's not like we sit down and like, we're gonna increase my emotional intelligence by 2 points. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen that way. Like for what reason? Why? But when you say, oh, I'm going to be a better father, now you get to, because that's the key of alignment, guys, right? What are you aligned with your purpose? If you don't know what that is, spend some time thinking about it. Better yet, join the brotherhood. And if you really want to just knock it out of the park, join the mastermind. Come work with me, get coaching, and get real clear on what the hell you're here to do and how you're going to do it. And it'll just level you up on a whole nother plane. Right. But I mean, the bottom line is you got to be in alignment with what are you out to achieve? Right. And good quote from Tony Robbins.
Oh gosh.
Boom.
Sorry.
I'm got plenty of issues with at this point, but bless him. He's definitely, um, he was helpful to me on my path at certain times. Never spent any money with him. But just hearing and one of the best things he has to say is it's not what you get, it's who you become that's your reward. I don't know if it's really his quote. Maybe he got it from somewhere else, but it's a great line, right? And where is it? Let me pull up this other one which I just shared, which was a Stoic quote from.
What I would like to say while Peter looks that up real quick, you don't need to have the answers for your journey or your purpose. Sometimes it's just the walking towards it.
Yes, huge. Absolutely agree with that. Here it is. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Comes from Seneca. Right. But that means that, like, if you don't know which port you said to which you sail, that means do you have a destination? And the same thing with a map. If you ever find yourself lost in the woods, God forbid, thankfully none of you watching this right now are, I would assume, right? If you ever were to find yourself lost in the woods and you had a map, that map wouldn't do you any good if you didn't know where you want to go and where you are right now. Much the same with your life. It's really, again, these things are so damn simple. We think, oh, I need some like complex. No, just make it simple. Where are you going? Where are you now? Where are you now? Might be, well, I feel depressed. Life sucks. I'm unhappy. My marriage is in the toilet. I'm disconnected from my kids and my business is like, it's grinding, you know? I'm making revenue, but there's no profit. Whatever, right? It's usually some kind of shit show story. And then we have this choice of like accepting that as like, well, that's just kind of how life is. I mean, look around at a lot of people with their marriages and they've just accepted that like, well, marriage is just kind of humdrum. May as well, I mean, we're at least, used to each other. It would take more work to whatever. It's just complacency with a low standard. Don't do that. Set yourself a goal. What port do you sail to? Because if you don't know where you're going, no wind is favorable. What that means is you can't even receive blessing because a wind is a blessing. You can't even receive it if you don't know where you're going, because what are you going to do with it, right? Another quote, I don't know who said it. God can't steer a parked car. Get yourself moving. Because a lot of times we're like, Jesus, take the wheel. And well, you got your foot on the brake and the e-brake, and the e-brake is pulled up further than you knew it could go. And you're saying, Jesus, take the wheel. It's like, well, you're not even moving. So what do you want? Get up and move. Find one thing you can act on today. I mean, I think that's the big takeaway, right?
Hell yeah.
Just find something you can act on today. And if that's like, I don't know what my goal is, well, then sit down and think about that and set a goal. Set yourself a simple goal. Just because it can be like, oh, it's overwhelming to think about my life. Well, just set yourself something simple. Because as PJ, as you just said, like it's about the journey too. And not becoming, and a whole other thing is not becoming so damn attached to your goals that you can't be open to the other things opening up. That's the other beautiful thing to add on to this Seneca quote is, well, you might set out sail for one port and the winds might take you to another. And your job is not to be so rigid that you're just throwing a hissy fit and you get to that port and you immediately set sail for the one you were trying to get to because the winds took you to this alternate port for some reason. Your job is to be present to that. And it's not easy. And I speak to that from, visceral experience. It's not easy when you're like, oh, this is great. This is how it's going to go. I visualized it. I felt it real. I'm in it. It's going to be just like this. And it's not just like that, but something greater is there for you, but you have to be present to it. That means gratitude, appreciation, right? And let go of bitterness, resentment, shame, all these kind of things, and ego ultimately. Oh, well, I said I'm going, this one I see all the time. I said I'm going to be a millionaire by 30, so my life's over if I'm not. Why the hell would your life be over? Since when does money denote anything about the value of you as a human being, as a person? It's one of the screwiest things we've done in our culture is that net worth has nothing to do with your self-worth. There's a lot
In
of
your
millionaires
career,
committing suicide. So, yeah.
you know, we got to disassociate career with who we are.
Hmm?
Doesn't make us who we are as a person.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. What you do even isn't who you are. What you do will flow from who you are. But you don't look for your worth in what you do and what you accomplish. It's a tough one to disassociate, especially once again, we live in a society that's steeped in this idea of like the work ethic and all these things, which are good ideals. Yes. But you'll know what work to do. But if you're just working to try to fill a vacuum of insecurity, that's going to drive you crazy.
So let's drive them crazy. Let's one more time. If there's one thing you could do right now, join the Brotherhood.
Yeah, there you
Next
go.
question. I mean, I'm gonna be like that pain in the ass.
Let's do it. Let's
Like
go.
it's just like me and Peter have leveled up since we got to know each other. And what's gonna happen when we start interacting with you guys? Start getting questions from you guys. Start hearing your stories, your
Yeah.
wants, your dreams and desires.
We all lift each other up. That's, yeah, rising tide lifts all boats. You know what I mean? So get in there, get after it. Let's get it together. There's so much more we can all be doing. So yeah, I don't know, just to wrap kind of my thoughts on emotional intelligence, it's a powerful piece. It's not an end goal. But I think it's definitely a part of every well-developed man. They have they're comfortable. They've learned to become comfortable with themselves. That means that when you're feeling, you're not so like, oh my gosh, right? It doesn't take control of you because you can be comfortable with yourself and recognize, okay, I'm feeling this way right now, and you can just observe it. So that's a great place to start practicing, is just observe how you're feeling and start to practice, as I said, a bit from roddycarter.com if you want to learn more about his work, compassionate neuroscience, and the understanding of like the 3 layers of the brain, which correspond to then fear, feeling, belief, thinking. And you can start to identify what's a fear, what's a thought, what's a feeling. That'll help you a lot too. But the main thing, yeah, just start to and recognize that you are not your feelings, just as you are not your thoughts. That's big.
Well,
So when we identify with our thoughts, we identify with our feelings, we lose control of ourselves because we are no longer ourselves. We are identifying with something we are not. Same thing with, yeah, being an empath. You soak up, right? It's another thing. Like you might, like I grew up feeling responsible for the unhappiness of people around me or responsible for the anger, right? So I identified a lot with the emotions of other people, and that was detrimental. So part of the practice too is you are not responsible. Don't identify with other people's feelings either. And you by no means are responsible for how they feel. You're just not. They're responsible for how they feel. It's one of the ludicrous things in our modern culture is like trying to be so, you can't say this, you can't say that. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you can't say anything. You know what I mean? And if we live in a society of diaper wearing babies that can't hear anything, then like, well, that society is doomed to fall very quickly because that's an incredibly weak society. A strong society is one that can handle different opinions, right? And same thing with brotherhood. It's not to tear you down by any means, but in brotherhood, it's just you're going to be faced with who you are. You're going to hear what you don't want to hear for your growth. Not to tear you down, not to criticize, not to judge. Never. Because that is manipulation. That's wrong. But anyway, so that's it. Man, I'm just feeling tired, so I apologize for being a little foggy today. But
we
it's a
kicked
great topic.
ass. It's also a heavy topic. It's a heavy
It is a
topic,
heavy topic.
and we went deep. And thank you. Thank you for showing us the progress. You're here, and we're here to grow together. And we're
Yeah.
already doing everything we can, and it's coming faster than we can blink. But it's every time we get personal, guys, it's we remember what we felt. And what we felt, we acknowledge, and it's gone. So just a friendly reminder of our past can help formulate why we need to move forward. And we're moving forward to serve our families, our loved ones, and a community. So thanks, Peter. And thank you everybody for watching. And we'll see
Yeah,
you
thank you.
next week, 6 p.m., 4 p.m. Mountain Time Central. Good night.
5
Boom.
p.m. Central.
5
Ba-boom!
p.m.
Yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time for episode 11. Crazy. All right, y'all. Peace.